Go down to the vault and get tape number 3 from the second show at the Fillmore on December 7th, 1972. I think the drum track is going to fit on this song.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, sure. Go down to the vault and back up, put it on. Oh, this, it wasn't exactly perfect. Trying to be able to do these things. Always amazing. So, let me just tell you something else amazing here. Richard Harris. Richard, Bruce and Plain Sisters, Carl Simon, a lot of big pop hits in the 80s or so. Late 70s, early 80s. Richard had the opposite. He had perfect memory for tapes. Now, I'm telling you this story secondhand. I just wrote a book with Ken Scott, famous engineer, one of the 5 engineers for the Beatles, produced in Foley Up Sound, blah, blah, blah. But he also did some sessions, and I found this quite amazing, but it's something I thought you'd like to hear. So, Richard had a habit. He kind of liked to work this way, which is kind of different from most producers. He had a theory that worked like this. When he first started playing in the studio, this is the band playing in the studio, the first couple of takes are really energetic and really feel cool and it's great. But after that, when you start on the song, energy goes down. But if you play it long enough, the energy comes back. So Richard wouldn't care if it took 50 or 90 takes. He would throw that line and everybody was falling over. Everybody hated him. But he would do something like this. He would say, go up and cut out the first chorus, or the first, the intro from take number 18, and then go and take the first verse from take number 67, and take the first chorus from take number 2, and so forth and so on. And he'd be right. There was one time that Ken told me that, in fact, he went up and he assembled one of these things, he started to play it, and Richard stopped him and he says, wait a second, no, that's take number 34 in the course, I went 33. Everyone, yeah, sure. And he was absolutely right.
Great.
So, the point here is, you want to be with geniuses, no matter how they are, what they do, because it brings you up. Okay, now, how do you get ahead in business? This is Andre Gill. Andre is the musical director for Alicia Keys. He's also a first call session player in New York. He does a lot of Chinese stuff and a lot of Russian stuff, among others. Here's how he got noticed in business. When he got to New York, he didn't know anybody. When he heard about these parties that would happen, birthday parties, or a member of Velvet Revolt, you have to pay to get in. You have to pay $30, $40, $50, and that way they basically kept people out that shouldn't be there. He would pay, and he'd go in, and he'd walk around every single person and say, hi. I'd say, hey, here's who I am, and just say hi. Third time, third party, do the same thing, fourth party, seventh party, eighth party. Suddenly got to the point where everybody knew him, because there's always the same people coming to these parties. They were all pretty connected. And it got to the point everybody knew Andre. They didn't know who he was, but they recognized him. So one day at one of these parties, one of the guys says, yeah, he starts to talk, and he says, you know, what do you do? He says, oh, I'm a composer, I'm a piano player. And he says, you know what, why don't you come by my office on Tuesday and play me some stuff? It was an A&R guy selling music. Andre went by, played some stuff, and the A&R guy said, yeah, that's pretty cool, and I know some people who are looking for a keyboard player, and you know, there's some sessions, you know what, I have this album I want you to produce. Next thing you know, he was collecting it. Now, if you've noticed, the one thing he didn't do was he never pushed himself. He did it pretty naturally in organic. Worked for him. I'm not saying it'll work for you. It worked for him. Here's another real good story. It's not my own. I have a friend who, his name is Rupert Berry. And Rupert was one of the most beloved executives in the music business before he retired. Everybody loved this guy. And that's really hard to say, because most music executives, most people hate, or they have something that they don't like about him. But Rupert, everybody loved this guy. Here's how he started. Now, once again, this probably won't happen for you, but it just gives you an idea of being creative. Okay, so Rupert was a guitar player, and he decides that what he really wants to do is he wants to help people's families, so we better get a steady job. So he gets a job with a publisher. And the publisher, after a while, folds. So now he's really stuck and he really needs a job. So he thinks, okay, if I get a job with a record label, at least it's steady, especially if it's a big record label. So he picks out 10 labels. Now, again, this is in London. They're English. He picks out 10 record labels and he sends a letter to them. He gets 9 letters back saying, oh, thank you, Mr. Perry, but we don't need anybody right now. Nothing from the 10. 10th was EMI. So he gets on the phone, he calls up, and he finds out who the chairman of EMI is. And he calls, so he actually gets to his office. Gets his assistant, and he says, I sent you a letter, why didn't you answer me? And the assistant went, oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Perry. I don't know how we could do that. We're so embarrassed that happened. Oh, let me try that in 2 hours. Now, if this was L.A., you know, he's situated. But this is London. And sure enough, 2 hours later, the assistant calls back. The assistant says, I'm so sorry, Mr. Perry, we can't find your letter. But you know what? Why don't you come in and talk to one of our executives? And he goes in and talks to the executive, and for a half hour, all the executive tells him why he's not good for a job. And he railed on, and Rupert said nothing the whole time. He just listened. After a half hour, the guy listens and says, but I like you, and you should go meet somebody. And he takes him to the next room to meet his boss. So because that happened, his boss thinks that he's getting endorsement, which I guess he is. So he says, okay, we have 2 jobs open. We have a job open in A&R. We have a job open with the chairman. As it so happened, the assistant that he had talked to was leaving. So he says, I don't know what I should do, what should I do, what should I do? Okay, I'll pick the job with the chairman. And it was the most brilliant thing he ever did, because when the time he took the job, he met every single manager, and we're talking about heavy-duty managers. He met everybody at every record label. He met every big-time artist. He met all the publishers. He met all the distributors. Everybody knew him. So, guess what? Next time the job opened up at EMI in executive position, guess who got it? And he worked his way up the chain, eventually becoming head of EMI Capital here, then becoming head of EMI here, then becoming head of EMI in Australia, then coming back to being head of EMI in North America, and eventually becoming the co-chairman of EMI before the finally retired. Moral of the story is, you really have to think about what you're doing, how you're doing it. You can't be afraid. You can't do it the way everybody's done it. You have to be creative. But you always want to be with the biggest fish in the sea. You want to be with the genius. You want to be with the best person you can, because that's the fastest way to get ahead in music business. The most brilliant person you can get a hold of, you can get coffee for. That's the way you get ahead. Speaking of coffee, my first job in Hollywood, working for a rather old stodgy engineer, he had recorded Frank Sinatra, did a lot of film work, a lot of orchestral stuff, and I had 2 jobs. The first job was, whenever that cup of coffee got half full, I had to fill it up. First thing, most important thing. The second job was I had to be clairvoyant. And what that meant was I had to figure out what he needed before he knew he needed it. So that meant I had to be on my toes. And if I thought he needed a limiter, I had to go get it, plug it in before he would say, oh, can you put a limiter in the bass? I think it will say, no, it's already there. Just hit insert. The whole thing about that is, music business is such that you always have to be aware. You have to be on your toes. You have to be willing to do things that you don't want to do. I didn't want to get coffee for somebody at that point in time, but I did. That's what you did. So, what have we learned today? Music business is not going away like you might be reading. It's not as bad as everybody says. Matter of fact, it can really good. It's just not the way everybody remembers it. One good thing is you don't have as many middlemen as we did before. That's the really good thing. Most of the hit our income doesn't come from where you think. It comes from the record sales, comes from everything else. When you get ahead, the first thing is you need a ticket. When you get the ticket, you got to go to school. Social media is the real key right now. You need to know social media. The fastest way to get ahead, besides working with key, is just to know social media. Don't be big fish in small pond. Work with the best. A lot of this came from Music 3.0, and I know you guys, some of you guys do this how this class, the marketing class we did. I want to tell you about this book. And this is something that's coming out. I was talking about Ken Scott, the engineer, for the Beatles, for producer of Bowie and Elton, and all those great old acts. I co-wrote this memoir with him. It's coming out June 6th. And I got to say, it's a good read. If you want to know the way it used to be as compared to now, not all that different. There's a lot of root to the stories in there. And finally, a whole bunch of books that I read. I read it, I also wrote it. I read it too many times. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, there's my Twitter feed, email, Facebook. I write 2 blogs every day. Music 3.0 blog is a music industry blog. It's all about what's happening in the music industry, what's happening in social media. And my production blog is Owsinski.blogspot.com. And every day there's something about music, there's something about recording, there's something about music, making music, being creative. I hope you enjoy it.
Yes, sir.
I hope you
Thank you so much, Bobby, and it was a true revelation for us, because what sometimes we do is great, somebody backs us up. And what I was going to say is, please enjoy the rest of your dinner. We'll play now right here. Ed Sussman will probably go on in about 40 to 45 minutes. If you're interested in what the kids do, the electronic music ensemble, they'll be basically warming up now the recital hall. In about 5 to 10 minutes, Sean Weissman will get the Notorious, and Sean Thompson will have the Logic Pro Clinic in 11:25. And please also take the time to talk to the guys from Sablesound Guitar Center, CSAC and Ableton. And for all future students, you really need to take the time and talk to them because of CSAC if you want to know what the wider aspect of your future royalty income could be. Thanks so much for coming, and in the case you did like or have some suggestions for improving a day like this, please email us. My email address is marcusburger1@mac.com or Marcus with a K, Burger with a U, the number 1@mac.com. And, well, enjoy the rest of the time here, enjoy the rest of the clinic, enjoy the concert. Thanks very much for coming.